What happens when a duchess thinks she can control the narrative on live television? In just 42 seconds, Meghan Markle went from royal guest to public spectacle, all because she couldn't handle one simple question from Good Morning America's beloved host, Lara Spencer. The morning started like any other at the Good Morning America studios in New York City. The crew was buzzing with excitement. Today's guest was none other than Meghan Markle, the former actress turned duchess who had been making headlines for all the wrong reasons lately. Lara Spencer, the seasoned host known for her warm smile and sharp interviewing skills, was preparing for what everyone thought would be a friendly chat about charity work and royal life. But Meghan had other plans. As the cameras rolled and the red recording lights flickered on, Lara welcomed viewers with her usual grace. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Good Morning America. I'm your host, Lara Spencer, and we have a very special guest with us today. Please welcome the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle. The audience applauded politely as Meghan walked onto the set, her smile looking more forced than genuine. She wore a crisp white blazer and carried herself with the kind of stiff posture that screamed discomfort. Something was already off. "Meghan, thank you so much for being here with us this morning," Lara said, her voice warm and welcoming as always. "It's wonderful to have you on the show." "Thank you for having me," Meghan replied, but her tone was clipped, almost cold. She settled into the guest chair and crossed her legs, her body language defensive from the very start. Lara, being the professional she was, didn't let the icy reception throw her off. "So, you're here today to talk about your new charity initiative. Tell us about that." "Well, Lara," Meghan began, already sounding condescending, "it's not just a charity initiative, it's a movement. A global movement to empower women and change the world. I'm not sure if your viewers would understand the complexity of what we're trying to accomplish here." The comment hit like a slap across the face. Lara's eyebrows raised slightly, but she maintained her composure. The crew behind the cameras exchanged worried glances. This wasn't starting well. "I think our viewers are quite intelligent, actually," Lara responded with a gentle laugh, trying to keep things light. "Perhaps you could explain it in a way that everyone can appreciate?" Meghan's jaw tightened. That's exactly the problem with American media. You always want to dumb everything down instead of elevating the conversation. In Britain, we expect more from our audience. The studio fell silent, except for the hum of the cameras. Even the audience seemed to sense the tension building. Lara's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "Meghan, I think you might be misunderstanding our approach here," Lara said, her voice still professional, but with a slight edge. "We simply want our viewers to understand and connect with your work. Isn't that what charity is about? Connecting with people?" "Don't lecture me about charity work," Meghan snapped, her mask finally slipping completely. "I've been doing this longer than you've been hosting morning television. I don't need some morning show host telling me how to communicate my message." The gasps from the audience were audible now. Lara's co-hosts looked stunned. The camera operators kept rolling, knowing they were witnessing television gold, even if it was uncomfortable to watch. Lara took a deep breath, her years of experience kicking in. "Meghan, I think we might have gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm simply trying to help you share your story with our audience. That's what we do here." "Your audience?" Meghan laughed bitterly. "Do you know who I am? I don't need your help reaching people. I have millions of followers. I have influence you could only dream of. I'm here as a favor, not because I need your little morning show." The arrogance was breathtaking. Lara's professional facade was being tested like never before. She looked directly into the camera, then back at Meghan. "Well, if that's how you feel," Lara said calmly, "perhaps we should take a different approach to this conversation. You mentioned your influence. Let's talk about how you've used that influence. Some people have questioned your motives behind your charitable work. What would you say to those critics?" And that's when Meghan's face turned red. "Question my motives?" she hissed. "How dare you? I've sacrificed everything for my charitable work. I gave up my acting career, my privacy, my freedom. I've been attacked by the media, by trolls, by people who don't understand what it means to serve others. And now you're sitting here questioning my motives?" "I'm not questioning anything personally," Lara clarified, her voice steady. "I'm asking you to address the concerns that some people have raised. That's what journalism is about." "Journalism?" Meghan scoffed. "Is that what you call this tabloid gossip session? This isn't journalism. This is a hit job. You brought me here under false pretenses." The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife. Lara's co-hosts were frantically checking their notes, trying to figure out how to salvage this interview. The producers behind the cameras were making cutting motions across their throats, but Lara pressed on. "Meghan, I assure you, we had no intention of ambushing you. We simply wanted to have an honest conversation about your work and address some of the questions that are out there. Isn't transparency important in charity work? Transparency? Meghan's voice rose an octave. You want transparency? Fine, let's be transparent. This network has been part of the machine trying to tear me down from day one. You've run negative stories about me, you've given platforms to my critics, and now you're trying to disguise it as legitimate journalism. Lara shook her head slowly. Meghan, I think you're confusing news reporting with personal attacks. We report on stories that are newsworthy. Your charity work is newsworthy. The questions about it are also newsworthy. That's not a personal attack. That's journalism. Don't gaslight me, Meghan shot back, pointing her finger at Lara. I know what this is. I've seen this playbook before. You invite someone on, pretend it's going to be friendly, then ambush them with gotcha questions designed to make them look bad. The audience was completely silent now, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Lara remained calm, but her patience was clearly wearing thin. Meghan, the only question I've asked about your charity work is how you respond to critics. That's hardly a gotcha question. It's actually giving you an opportunity to defend your work and explain your mission. But Meghan was beyond reason at this point. Her royal composure had completely cracked, revealing something ugly underneath. You know what your problem is, Lara? Meghan continued, her voice dripping with venom. You think because you sit behind that desk every morning, reading off a teleprompter, that makes you some kind of serious journalist, but you're just another morning show host trying to make a name for yourself by tearing down people who actually matter. The insult hung in the air like poison. Lara's eyes flashed, but she maintained her professional demeanor. Meghan, I've been doing this job for over a decade. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, and yes, members of your own family. I'm not trying to tear anyone down. I'm trying to do my job. Your job? Meghan laughed harshly. Your job is to entertain housewives while they drink their morning coffee. Don't pretend this is some kind of serious news program. This is fluff television, and you're a fluff host. The crew behind the cameras looked horrified. Some of the audience members were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Lara's co-hosts were frozen, not knowing whether to jump in or let this disaster continue to unfold. Lara took a deep breath, her voice remaining steady despite the personal attack. Meghan, I think we should focus on why you're here today. You wanted to talk about your charity work. Let's talk about that. Oh, now you want to talk about my charity work? Meghan's voice was mocking. After you've spent the last 5 minutes trying to undermine me? After you've made it clear that you think I'm some kind of fraud? I never said anything like that, Lara replied firmly. I asked you to address your critics. That's not the same as calling you a fraud. In fact, it was an opportunity for you to set the record straight. Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the studio floor. The sudden movement caught everyone off guard. I don't need to set any record straight for you or your audience. My record speaks for itself. The millions I've raised, the lives I've changed, the awareness I've brought to important causes. What have you done besides read the news? The attack was so personal, so vicious, that even Lara seemed taken aback for a moment. But she recovered quickly, her journalist instincts kicking in. Meghan, please sit down. We can have a civil conversation about this, Lara said, gesturing to the chair. Civil? Meghan remained standing, towering over the seated host. There's nothing civil about what you've done here today. You've ambushed me, disrespected me, and tried to humiliate me on live television. And for what? Ratings? Is that what this is about? Lara looked directly into the camera, then back at Meghan. Meghan, I think you're overreacting. We're having a conversation. This is what interviews are like. People ask questions. Guests answer them. That's how this works. Don't you dare tell me I'm overreacting, Meghan snapped, pointing her finger at Lara again. I know exactly what this is. This is part of the systematic campaign to destroy my reputation and my work. And you're just another cog in that machine. The paranoia in her voice was unmistakable now. Lara exchanged glances with her co-hosts, clearly concerned about where this was heading. Meghan, I think you need to take a step back here, Lara said gently. Nobody is trying to destroy anything. We invited you on the show to talk about your charity work. That's it. That's it? Meghan's voice rose even higher. That's it? You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know how this works? The setup, the friendly invitation, then the trap. I've seen it happen to other people. I've seen how the media operates. Lara was clearly reaching the end of her patience, but she maintained her professionalism. Meghan, I've been nothing but respectful to you today. I've given you multiple opportunities to talk about your work, to address any concerns, to tell your story. But instead of taking those opportunities, you've chosen to attack me and attack this show. Respectful? Meghan laughed bitterly. You call questioning my motives respectful? You call treating me like some kind of criminal respectful? I came here in good faith, and you've made me into the villain. You're making yourself into the villain? Lara said quietly, but her words carried weight. I've asked you one substantive question, and your response has been to insult me, insult this show, insult our audience, and now you're having what can only be described as a meltdown on live television. The truth of those words seemed to hit Meghan like a physical blow. Her face flushed red, and for a moment, she seemed speechless. A meltdown? She finally whispered, her voice dangerous. You think this is a meltdown? Meghan, please, Lara said, genuinely concerned now. Let's just take a breath and reset this conversation. But Meghan was beyond any kind of reset. You have no idea what I've been through. The pressure, the scrutiny, the constant attacks. And now you're sitting there in your comfortable little studio, judging me like you have any clue what my life is like. I'm not judging you, Lara insisted. I'm trying to understand you. I'm trying to give you a platform to share your story, but you're making that impossible. My story? Meghan's voice was shaking now. You don't want my story. You want your version of my story. You want the narrative that fits your agenda. Well, I won't be part of it. I won't sit here and let you twist my words and paint me as the bad guy. Lara looked around the studio, clearly weighing her options. The producers were frantically signaling from behind the cameras. The audience was completely silent, watching this disaster unfold like a car crash they couldn't look away from. Meghan, I think maybe we should take a commercial break, Lara suggested diplomatically. A commercial break? Meghan scoffed. So you can regroup and figure out how to make me look even worse when we come back? No thank you. I'm done with this charade. She started to remove her microphone, fumbling with a small device clipped to her blazer. Meghan, please don't leave, Lara said, standing up from her chair. We can work this out. We can have the conversation you want to have. The conversation I want to have? Meghan turned back to face her, the microphone dangling from her hand. The conversation I wanted to have was about my charity work. About the good I'm trying to do in the world? But you turned it into an interrogation. I asked you one question about your critics, Lara repeated, her own frustration finally showing through. One question, and your response has been to spend the last 10 minutes attacking me personally. How is that my fault? The question hung in the air, and for a moment, it seemed like Meghan might actually reflect on what had just happened. But instead, her anger flared again. It's your fault because you created this hostile environment from the moment I walked in here. Meghan shot back, her voice now trembling with rage. You had your mind made up about me before I even sat down. You wanted to see me fail, and now you're acting innocent when I defend myself. Lara shook her head, her own composure finally cracking slightly. Meghan, that is completely untrue. I welcomed you warmly. I tried to give you every opportunity to share your message. You're the one who turned this hostile. I turned this hostile? Meghan's voice reached a pitch that made several audience members wince. I turned this hostile by refusing to let you walk all over me? By refusing to play your little game? The studio was dead silent, except for Meghan's voice echoing off the walls. Even the crew had stopped moving, frozen by the spectacle unfolding before them. What game, Meghan? Lara asked, her voice tired now. What game am I supposedly playing? I asked you about your charity work. I asked you to respond to critics. These are normal interview questions. Normal for who? Meghan demanded. When you interview other celebrities, do you immediately go after them? Do you question their motives? Do you treat them like they're on trial? Lara's patience finally snapped. Meghan, you're not just any celebrity. You married into the royal family. You've made public statements about wanting to change the world. You've positioned yourself as a global humanitarian. When you put yourself in that position, yes, people are going to ask questions. That's how this works. How this works, Meghan repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Let me tell you how this really works, Lara. You bring on someone you want to tear down. You ask loaded questions designed to make them look bad. Then when they try to defend themselves, you act like they're being unreasonable. It's a setup from start to finish. The accusation was so unfair, so removed from reality, that even some audience members were shaking their heads in disbelief. Lara looked around the studio, then back at Meghan. Meghan, I've been doing this job for a long time. I've interviewed thousands of people. I've never had someone react the way you're reacting right now. Maybe the problem isn't me or this show. Maybe the problem is you." The words hit Meghan like a physical slap. Her mouth fell open, and for a moment, she seemed genuinely shocked that someone had finally called her out directly. "Excuse me?" she whispered, her voice dangerous. "You heard me," Lara said, standing her ground. "You came on this show with a chip on your shoulder. You've been defensive and hostile from the very first question. You've insulted me, insulted this show, insulted our audience, and now you're trying to make it seem like you're the victim here. That's not how this works." Meghan's face went through a series of expressions: anger, shock, indignation, before settling on pure fury. "You have no right to speak to me that way." "I have every right," Lara replied firmly. "This is my show. This is my studio. And you've been disrespectful to me and everyone here from the moment you arrived. I've tried to be professional. I've tried to be understanding. But I won't be bullied on my own show." The word bullied seemed to trigger something primal in Meghan. She stepped closer to Lara's desk, her microphone still dangling from her hand. "Bullied?" she hissed. "You think I'm bullying you? You have no idea what bullying looks like. I've been bullied by the entire British press. I've been bullied by internet trolls. I've been bullied by people who don't even know me. And now you want to play victim because I won't sit here and let you join the pile on?" "Nobody is piling on you," Lara said, her voice rising to match Meghan's energy. "You're having a breakdown because someone asked you to address your critics. That's it. That's literally all that happened here." "A breakdown?" Meghan's voice cracked. "You think standing up for myself is a breakdown? You think refusing to be your punching bag is a breakdown?" "I think what's happening right now is a breakdown," Lara said pointedly. "You're screaming at me on live television because I asked you one simple question about your charity work. Look around, Meghan. Look at how everyone is staring at you. This isn't normal behavior." Meghan did look around, and for the first time, she seemed to really see the horrified faces of the crew, the shocked expressions of the audience members, the uncomfortable body language of everyone in the studio. But instead of calming down, it seemed to enrage her further. "You did this," she said, pointing accusingly at Lara. "You created this situation. You pushed me into this corner, and now you're trying to make me look crazy for defending myself." "I didn't push you anywhere," Lara replied. "You did this to yourself. You could have answered the question about your critics. You could have talked about your charity work. You could have had a normal, professional interview. Instead, you chose to attack me personally and have a meltdown on live television." That was the final straw. Meghan threw the microphone down on the floor, where it landed with a loud thud that echoed through the studio. "I'm done," she announced, her voice shaking. "I'm done with this ambush. I'm done with you, and I'm done with this pathetic excuse for journalism." She started walking toward the exit, her heels clicking loudly on the studio floor. But then she turned back, unable to resist one final parting shot. "You know what, Lara? You think you've won something here today. You think you've exposed me somehow. But all you've done is show the world what kind of person you really are. A small-minded morning show host who gets her kicks from tearing down people who are actually trying to make a difference in the world." Lara had heard enough. "Meghan, the only person who's been exposed here today is you. Everyone watching this can see exactly what happened. I asked you one professional question, and you spent 20 minutes attacking me personally. That's not my fault. That's yours." Meghan's face turned red again. "Don't you dare try to rewrite history. Everyone saw what you did to me here." "Everyone saw what you did to yourself," Lara corrected. "And that's not my responsibility. That's yours." With that, Meghan stormed toward the exit, but not before turning back one last time. "This isn't over," she called out, her voice echoing through the studio. "People need to know what really happened here today." "They do know," Lara replied calmly, gesturing to the cameras that were still rolling. "They watched it happen live." And with that, Meghan Markle was gone, leaving behind a stunned studio audience, a bewildered crew, and one very professional host who had just witnessed one of the most spectacular self-destructions in live television history. Lara turned to the camera, took a deep breath, and with remarkable composure said, "Well, that was certainly unexpected. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have the weather forecast with our meteorologist." The cameras stopped rolling, and the studio erupted in whispers and shocked conversations. What had started as a routine morning show interview had become a masterclass in how not to handle media pressure. And through it all, one host had maintained her professionalism while her guest had completely lost control.